Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today's breaking story: ceasefire collapse. U.S. and Israel abandon Egypt, peace talks, Gaza on the brink. What just happened in Cairo could decide the fate of Gaza, Israel, and the entire Middle East. Let's get right into the details. The world woke up to shocking news from Egypt this morning. After weeks of tense negotiations, U.S. and Israeli delegations have officially walked out of the Cairo peace talks, leaving behind Egyptian and Qatari mediators and a frustrated Palestinian delegation. This collapse marks a catastrophic failure of what was supposed to be the final push toward a long-term Gaza ceasefire. Sources inside the talks say the atmosphere was explosive. Egyptian officials reportedly slammed their hands on the table, accusing both Israel and Washington of deliberate sabotage. The Palestinian representatives, many connected to both Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, reportedly stormed out of the room in anger. So what went wrong? According to inside sources, Israel demanded a full surrender from Hamas, including disarmament, the return of all hostages, and total Israeli control of Gaza's borders. Hamas rejected those terms outright, calling them a demand for humiliation, not peace. Meanwhile, the U.S. delegation, led by senior envoy Brett McGurk, backed Israel's stance. American officials insisted that no ceasefire would hold until Hamas gave credible guarantees to end all rocket attacks permanently. Hamas negotiators responded by accusing the U.S. of acting as Israel's lawyer, not a peace broker, and that's when everything fell apart. Egypt, which had spent weeks mediating the deal, reacted furiously. Cairo's foreign ministry released a rare statement saying, "The breakdown of these talks threatens to plunge the region into an uncontrollable escalation. Egypt calls upon all sides, especially Israel and its allies, to act with restraint." But that plea might be too late. Within hours of the collapse, Israeli warplanes began striking targets across northern Gaza, claiming they were hitting Hamas command centers. On the ground, residents described the bombardment as the heaviest since August. Videos from Gaza City show massive explosions lighting up the night sky. Entire blocks turned into rubble. The humanitarian situation is again spiraling out of control. UN officials warn that hospitals in Gaza are running on fumes. Food and water supplies are critically low. Over 1.8 million people remain displaced, many living in makeshift tents amid the ruins. Doctors Without Borders said, "This is no longer a war zone, it's an open-air graveyard." In response, the Biden administration said it was deeply disappointed by the collapse, but placed most of the blame on Hamas, saying the group refused reasonable terms. But critics say that's misleading. Former U.S. diplomat Aaron David Miller told CNN, "The administration talks about peace, but in practice, it's letting Israel dictate every condition. That's not mediation, that's complicity." On the Israeli side, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been under enormous pressure from his far-right coalition partners, ministers like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich openly warned Netanyahu, who not to agree to any truce unless Hamas was completely crushed. They threatened to bring down the government if he gave in. As a result, Netanyahu, who doubled down, declaring in a fiery statement, "Israel will not bow to terror. Our operations will continue until Hamas is eradicated and every hostage returns home." That message was welcomed by his hardline supporters, but has horrified much of the international community. European diplomats privately say Israel's position leaves no diplomatic off-ramp. Meanwhile, Hamas has issued its own statement. Its spokesperson in Beirut said, "Israel has proven once again that it only understands the language of force. If they want escalation, they will have it." Moments later, rockets were fired from Gaza into southern Israel, targeting Ashkelon and Sderot. Israeli Iron Dome batteries intercepted most, but several hit residential areas, wounding civilians. The cycle of retaliation has officially resumed. Back in Washington, divisions are growing. Members of Congress, especially from the progressive wing, are blasting the Biden administration for enabling what they call collective punishment of Palestinians. Senator Bernie Sanders tweeted, "The U.S. must stop funding this carnage. The people of Gaza deserve life, not endless war. Even some within the Pentagon are uneasy. Reports suggest that American military advisors warned the White House that Israel's continued bombardment risks igniting a wider regional war, especially as Hezbollah in Lebanon increases rocket fire in solidarity with Gaza. In Egypt, frustration is boiling. Cairo invested months of diplomacy and credibility trying to secure this deal. Egyptian intelligence Chief Abbas Kamel personally met with both Hamas and Israeli security officials. Now that effort lies in ruins. Regional analysts say Egypt's patience is running out. For decades, Egypt has acted as the buffer maintaining peace with Israel while managing Palestinian anger. But as Gaza burns again, pressure on the Egyptian government is mounting. Protests have erupted in Cairo and Alexandria, with demonstrators chanting, "Stop the slaughter in Gaza." The broader Middle East is now on edge. In Lebanon, Hezbollah has placed its elite Radwan forces on high alert. In Yemen, the Houthis have vowed to strike Israeli ports if Gaza continues to suffer. Even Jordan's King Abdullah has reportedly warned the U.S. that another Gaza war could destabilize the entire region. Iran, meanwhile, is taking full advantage of the chaos. Iranian state TV declared that America's hypocrisy has been exposed once again. Tehran has renewed calls for a regional front against Israel, further complicating Washington's efforts to contain escalation. Let's not forget this collapse comes after weeks of cautious optimism. Egyptian officials had hinted just days ago that both sides were closer than ever to a deal involving a phased truce, hostage exchanges, and humanitarian corridors. But now that hope is dead. According to leaks from Egyptian sources, the turning point came when Israel demanded the right to selectively resume military operations, even during a ceasefire, if it suspected Hamas activity. Hamas rejected that clause immediately, calling it a trap. That refusal triggered the walkout. So what happens now? Analysts warn of an imminent full-scale assault on Gaza's remaining northern sectors. Israeli media is reporting that army divisions are regrouping along the border, possibly preparing for a new ground operation. At the same time, U.S. naval forces in the Mediterranean remain on high alert, a signal that Washington expects things to get worse before they get better. If fighting resumes on that scale, Gaza could face the deadliest phase of this war yet. UN officials are pleading for restraint, but with diplomacy shattered, few expect either side to listen. Let's look at the bigger picture. The Cairo peace collapse is not just a diplomatic setback, it's a strategic earthquake. It undermines Egypt's role as the primary peace broker. It exposes Washington's dwindling influence in the Arab world. And it gives Iran, Turkey, and Qatar a golden opportunity to expand their regional clout. Every regional capital is now recalculating. From Riyadh to Ankara, leaders are watching closely, asking the same question: can Israel still be reasoned with? Or has it crossed a line that makes future peace impossible? For ordinary people in Gaza, none of this matters. Their homes are gone, their families shattered. They don't care who's sitting in what negotiation room, they just want to survive. One mother interviewed by Al Jazeera said through tears, "They said peace was coming, but all we got was more bombs." That quote captures the mood across the strip: exhaustion, anger, and despair. And yet, despite everything, many still cling to hope that international pressure will eventually force both sides back to the table. In the coming days, the world will watch closely. Will Washington and Tel Aviv realize the cost of abandoning diplomacy? Will Egypt try to salvage the talks? Or will Gaza be plunged into yet another catastrophic war that leaves thousands more dead? Right now, the outlook is grim. The ceasefire is gone. The peace talks have collapsed. And Gaza once again stands on the brink of annihilation.